Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. The latest from reigning WBA light heavyweight champion Dimitri Bivol in association with a potential Canelo Alvarez fight. Bivol told ESPN, "Why should I even do the rematch at 175? What is the challenge? What is the motivation for me if I've already beaten him at that weight class? And I don't think we should worry about who thinks what. It's really about what we want. What each of us wants. And I think he wants to win. And if he can win, he might have a better chance at 168 because he said that's his best weight class. And for me, there should be some motivation and some challenge. Dimitri wants to be challenged. Moreover, Dimitri Bivol wants more belts. He wants Canelo Alvarez's belts at 168 pounds. In truth, Canelo Alvarez, accomplished fighter that he might be, based on what I saw this past weekend, I just don't think he can adjust to Dimitri Bivol's style. Nope. It's too pesky. It's not just based on what I saw this past weekend. I said it before this weekend's fight. Beforehand, Dimitri Bivol is a tougher puzzle to solve than, say, a David Benavidez or a Demetrius Andrade, though because both Canelo and Dimitri want the fight, want the rematch at different weights, they may find themselves at an impasse. Currently, they're trying to find Dimitri Bivol a dance partner for a proposed July date. And it's tough, because between the two champions, the two remaining champions at that weight, Dimitri Bivol and Artur Beterbiev, you can argue that between the both of them, they've effectively cleaned house at light heavyweight, leaving very few relevant fights and relevant fighters for the other to... Neither guy has that many alternatives. Not really. Dimitri Bivol has locked horns with Jean Pascal and Sullivan Barrera, Joe Smith Jr. They both fought Joe Smith Jr., yeah. Dimitri and Artur. Yeah. Dimitri took care of Canelo and took care of Zurdo. Artur took care of Anthony Yard and Alexander Vozdik years ago. Marcus Brown. He's about to fight Callum Smith, his mandatory challenger by way of the WBC, and in that way you can see that between the both of them, they've really cleaned house at 175 pounds, making the fight between them the biggest and best fight you can hope to make. Yeah, honestly. But alas, we're not having much luck in that area as far as the fight fans go, getting the very best light heavyweight fight we can get. And because Canelo and Dimitri, they may end up being at an impasse over the weight. What are Dimitri's options? What are Dimitri's alternatives to a Canelo fight? Alternatives to a Beterbiev fight? What else is left at light heavyweight? He might just have to buckle down and play ball. He ain't got very many options. Canelo may be his only option for a high-profile fight. Former champion, now turned analyst, Paulie Malignaggi seems to think that in fighting Dimitri, Canelo is avoiding David Benavidez. He took to his social media and said in so many words, avoiding his WBC mandatory at all costs. Canelo can't win. Canelo can't win with some people. If he fights Dimitri, they say he's avoiding David. If he fights David, some will say he's avoiding Dimitri. If he fights Dimitri at 175 pounds, they'll say it should be at 168. But if he said it should be at 168, they'd say it should be at 175. In fact, they did say it should be at 175 a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or two, when they thought news broke of the rematch potentially happening at super middleweight instead of light heavyweight. And initially, when that news broke, Canelo's boo birds, his critics, they thought that was at Canelo's request, not realizing it was at Dimitri's. Dimitri's the one who wants the fight at 168. But at that time, they didn't know that. They didn't realize it. And they felt that Canelo was trying to drain Dimitri Bivol. Now that it's more understood that it's Dimitri that wants it at 168 and not Canelo, now they're saying the opposite. They're saying, well, it shouldn't be at 175. It should be at 168. Whatever Canelo wants, they want the opposite. So if Canelo wants it at light heavyweight, they'll say it should be at super middleweight. If he turned around tomorrow and said it should be at super middleweight, they would say, then it should be at light heavyweight. They're like petulant children. It's all about being in opposition of Canelo. But why? Why do they hate that guy? Because Al Heyman can't control him. Because Al Heyman don't have his thumb on him. That's why. So long as Canelo Alvarez is fighting and winning and drawing south of the border or north of it. You can't call Gervonta Davis the face of boxing because he's not the biggest draw in America. Irrespective of what the Ryan Garcia fight did, that was an isolated incident. Gervonta Davis don't normally put up those kind of numbers. And so long as Canelo Alvarez is still fighting and still winning and still drawing, they know Gervonta can't take his place as the face of boxing.
They want him to falter. They want him to fail. They want Canelo Alvarez to just go away.
So they can say that Gervonta Davis has usurped him, though as long as he's still around and as long as he's still fighting and winning and drawing, they can't.
They can't claim that David Benavidez has the inside track on the Mexican-American fans and the Mexican fans because he doesn't.
David Benavidez's following doesn't come close to Canelo Alvarez's following. As you can imagine, Canelo's continued presence in the sport is a thorn in Al Heyman's ass. And
In his side.
they think that once Canelo Alvarez is gone, that will free things up for Al Heyman and his flunkies to take over.
That's what it's all about for them. They're always in opposition of Canelo Alvarez.
In yesterday's fight, Canelo Alvarez put a worse beating on John Ryder than the beating that David Benavidez put on Caleb Plant. In fact, Canelo put on a worse beating on Caleb Plant than David did.
But they can't admit it.
The David Benavidez versus Caleb Plant fight was in fact a tale of two halves. In the first half, Caleb Plant banked most of those rounds, but in the second half, he gassed out, got tired, and started getting hit.
Now, the Canelo versus Plant fight, that wasn't a tale of two halves.
Canelo Alvarez stalked him and walked him down, dropped him 2 times, and knocked him out.
6'2", 200 pounds on the night. After rehydrating David Benavidez, he couldn't do that, and they resent Canelo Alvarez for it.
That Canelo got the knockout and David didn't.
They want to castigate him for this past weekend's fight, not stopping John Ryder, but the beating that he put on John was worse than the beating David put on Caleb.
He broke John's nose in the first quarter of the fight, dropped him 2 times, hurt him about 4.
The beating that Canelo put on John was in fact worse than the beating that David put on Caleb.
David Benavidez never dropped Caleb Plant, not once, let alone twice like Canelo dropped John Ryder.
So what's the argument?
The argument is that these guys seem to think that because these fighters are Heyman fighters, that that's supposed to make them better by default, special in some sort of way, even when they're outdone by Canelo Alvarez.
That's their argument.
Which is no argument at all. Canelo Alvarez took the Plant fight out of the judges' hands. David Benavidez couldn't.
It's just a fact.
Now Canelo's got Dimitri Bivol on the brain, but as stated, they may be at an impasse when it comes to the weight, and as a result of that fight might not happen.
Things are very immaterial.
Now, during last night's box office fight, Canelo versus Ryder, it was officially announced that Regis Prograis would be going to Matchroom.
The rumors checked out.
The rumors I told you about here on this channel. Regis Prograis explained why he turned down the offer from Top Rank to sign a 3-fight deal with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom.
I think he made the right choice.
Eddie's just given me so much, Regis Prograis said on Matchroom deal compared to offer made by Top Rank. WBC World Super Lightweight Champion Regis Prograis signed a 3-fight promotional deal with Eddie Hearn's Matchroom Boxing. It was confirmed yesterday on the Canelo vs. Ryder DAZN broadcast. The 2-time 140-pound champion will make the first defense of his title against Australia's own southpaw, Liam Pato, who very recently was ordered to enter negotiations with Jose Ramirez.
One of Top Rank's guys.
And he stood him up. He stood up Jose Ramirez for the second time. You may recall that some months ago, Liam Pato,
I think it was by way of the WBO. Those two guys were supposed to fight.
he instead elected to take on Jock Barvis in their native Australia in what was Matchroom's Australian debut. He stood up Jose Ramirez before, he's standing him up again here and now.
I can't say as I blame him. Regis is a champion. Jose isn't.
What the hell's he get out of fighting Jose Ramirez? Rick Mirigian telling him that Jose Ramirez is the A-side and everything's got to be on Jose's terms?
But no title.
All for the chance to become the mandatory to a title. For that, you might as well fight for a title against Regis. Fight for his.
Yeah.
Fans were somewhat surprised with this signing, as they expected Prograis to lean towards Bob Arum's Top Rank due to their depth at 140. But Prograis mentioned on the broadcast and interviews that he feels Matchroom is the place for him and explained in depth to Ringside Views why that is the case.
Regis was singing a very familiar tune, a tune I've sung here on the channel on more than one occasion.
Top Rank offered me a longer contract. Matchroom offered me a shorter contract. The reported deal with Top Rank was 5 fights in comparison to the 3 fights offered by Matchroom. Prograis did not want to commit to a longer deal and preferred the flexibility offered by Hearn. The fighters I want to fight at Top Rank are Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor, Teofimo Lopez, Prograis admitted. Ramirez has 1 fight left at Top Rank, Would I be guaranteed him? I don't know. I don't think Ramirez will ever fight me.
I don't blame him.
It was in 2018 that talks for a Ramirez versus Prograis fight initially kicked off, and the fight didn't happen then. Fast forward a couple of years and
Those talks started up again by way of the WBC. Under orders from the WBC, these two guys were supposed to enter negotiations, and once again, the fight didn't materialize.
the WBC's proposed split was something like 30 to 35% for the challenger, 35% for Ramirez. He wanted 40% of the pot.
40% is the challenger.
Those talks never really got off the ground, if we're being honest. Ramirez, Josh Taylor, Teofimo Lopez, Prograis admitted. Ramirez has one fight left under Top Rank. Would I be guaranteed him? I don't know. I don't think Ramirez will ever fight me. Teo, he already said he's not going to ESPN anymore.
How much time was Regis Prograis supposed to spend chasing around Jose Ramirez?
This has been going on since 2018, and when it comes to Teo, who really believes that Teofimo would fight this guy?
I don't.
Prograis continued, this might be his last fight at Top Rank, and with Josh Taylor, he might go to 147. Who am I left with over at Top Rank? Prograis doesn't believe the perceived stable's depth at 140 is as accurate as often portrayed, with the future of the top talent at Top Rank unknown after their next fight.
People are talking about that Ramirez fight for Prograis like it's a fucking Canelo fight.
Rick Mirigian especially. Rick Mirigian, who handles the career of Jose Ramirez and Arnold Barboza. Prograis continued, all those fights I named, Eddie can make those fights happen. Bob Arum has also confirmed that he would be willing to make fights with Prograis even if the American didn't sign with him, although that is much easier said than done. Prograis was a fan of the speed at which Matchroom worked and the emphasis on activity, revealing that they made his next fight before he even signed the contract with them. The 34-year-old wants to unify and fight the best fighters in the division and believes that can happen at Matchroom. We are trying to get Matias. That's the fight I want. From what I understand, they're trying to grab him.
Yet another aspect of the rumor that I heard last week, that Matchroom wasn't just pursuing Regis, they were pursuing Matias as well.
Subriel Matias, who is this division's IBF champion, it's my understanding that even though he characteristically fights on PBC shows, he's not a Heyman fighter. He's not one of Heyman's boys.
Because he isn't, he may have the autonomy to cross over to Matchroom.
I can make more in 3 fights with Matchroom than in 4 fights with Top Rank. If I got in that Top Rank deal, I would have got stuck in those minimums. If they give you a minimum, that's probably going to be your maximum. The financial incentive at Matchroom was obviously a factor, even though the overall Top Rank deal was more lucrative. It appears that the money for Prograis, 3 fights Hearns Matchroom is guaranteed, and the American knows exactly what he will take home. I like the freedom. Matchroom is about believing in myself. The first 2 fights are not high marquee names. That 3rd fight could be a Matias unification. After 3 fights, I'm out of the deal, and I got 2 belts at 140. 3 fights in 10 months. Prograis expects the 3 fights in his deal to be completed within 10 months, meaning by next April, he will be out of contract again and an active fighter, potentially with 2 belts. With Matchroom, Eddie just giving me so much, I'm going to have the ability to put whoever I want on my undercard. I'm not going to be an employee. Me and Eddie going to be partners. That's the power you want. Regis emphasizes the importance of something Eddie Hearn has repeatedly pushed, in that signing with Matchroom allows the fighter to control the show they fight on and make decisions usually made by the promoter. Prograis feels with Top Rank he would have been an employee rather than a partner.
Now, Rick Mirigian, who handles the careers of Arnold Barboza and Jose Ramirez, seemed none too pleased at the recent signing, saying,
This is the biggest duck in boxing history. He ducked an entire division. No more duck talk ever. Ducks Ramirez, Barboza, Taylor, and Lopez, and a more lucrative offer? You have to love Eddie Hearn, because one of these 4 is getting a big offer from him to fight Regis. Just one.
I disagree. A narrative like this has to rely on the overall stupidity of the listener. Nobody's stupid. Nobody believes that Regis is ducking Jose Ramirez at Teofimo Lopez.
You kidding me? Unbeaten Arnold Barboza, he's a good solid fighter. Unbeaten, but then again, so is Liam Pato.
You gonna tell me Arnold Barboza is some huge fucking name in America?
He isn't, and we both know that. Rick continued, I'd rather fight Pato, Hitchinson, Catterall, or Love than Ramirez, Barboza, Taylor, or Lopez too. No shame in taking the check. Just no more duck talk. Glad you got paid. You still got a great promoter now, but you you for sure ducked an entire division talent-wise.
Of all those fighters that Rick Mirigian mentioned, Jose Ramirez, Arnold Barboza, Josh Taylor, Teofimo Lopez, of the four,
Rick Mirigian only handles the careers of two. He can't make promises on Teofimo Lopez's behalf any more than he can make promises on Josh Taylor's behalf. Promises that either one of those two guys would fight Regis. He can't do that.
his stake in all of this is Arnold Barboza and Jose Ramirez. Those are his fighters.
Not Teofimo and not Josh Taylor. So when you think about it, do you want to spend more time chasing around Jose Ramirez and Arnold Barboza? God bless him. He's about as well known as Liam Battle.
They're both unbeaten guys. They're both southpaws.
I'd wager Jack Catterall, who unofficially beat Josh Taylor in the eyes of many. I'd wager for Regis, a fight with Jack offers more bang for your buck than a fight with them.
I'd wager Jack Catterall has more of a profile in the UK than Arnold in America. Not saying that either guy is some huge fucking name, but because Jack unofficially beat Josh Taylor in the eyes of many, I'd wager he's a little bit more well known where he's from than Arnold is here.
Rick continued, you know I'm gonna congratulate you. You deserve that. I sincerely mean it. But you know you ducked them all. Now fill that arena at home, and we're gonna make Ramirez versus Prograis by that third fight, and for a lot of money.
By trying to A-side the champion?
You know what I think? I think Rick Mirigian was hoping that Regis would cross over to Top Rank, not so that he can make a Ramirez fight, but so that he can make a Barboza fight.
Nothing about how Jose Ramirez has been moving communicates to me that he really wanted a Prograis fight. But Arnold, who's not in line to fight for any belts,
Arnold Barboza, who had his heart set on a Teofimo Lopez fight, but he wasn't having any luck in that department either.
remember after the Compass fight, Teofimo Lopez was heard saying, "Don't make me fight that bum, Arnold Barboza"?
For whatever reason, Teofimo Lopez didn't want to give Arnold the time of day, and he still isn't. He's fighting Josh Taylor. I think Rick Mirigian's stake, his real stake in all of this, is he was hoping he could deliver Arnold a title shot by way of Regis Prograis.
If you think about it, what's Rick Mirigian gonna do now for either Jose Ramirez or Arnold Barboza? What's their path to a title?
You know, we could argue that he might see about making a Teofimo Lopez fight, but that's if Teofimo wins. That's if Teofimo beats Josh Taylor, and that's if Teofimo stays on the top rank side of things.
And that's if Teofimo gives his two fighters the time of day.
It's a lot of ifs, whereas had Regis crossed over to Top Rank, Rick would know that he can get at least one of his guys a title shot. Now
He's not so sure.
not really. What if Teofimo Lopez wins? What if Teofimo Lopez loses? What about Josh Taylor? Will Josh Taylor give any of his fighters the time of day? He already beat Jose.
Is Arnold even on his radar?
The reason Rick has been so focused on Regis Prograis and what he's doing is because he was hoping that he could find use for him.
If you've been following Rick Mirigian's social media, he's had no shortage of things to say about Regis Prograis.
But nobody that keeps up with Regis Prograis, nobody who's seen him in action, and nobody who follows the 140-pound division really believes that he's afraid of Teofimo Lopez, Jose Ramirez, or Arnold Barboza.
All of those guys have been looking lackluster in their last fights.
Ramirez with Comey and Barboza with Pedraza. Lopez with Martin.
None of them look good.
So why the hell would Regis be shaking in his boots over any one of them?